Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cammy's View. Welcome. So this episode is actually the continuation of the voting episode. So if you have not watched that, then you should probably go watch that first because this is a continuation of the first one. So if you have watched the last episode, then I will continue. But the people that have not watched, so that I don't spoil the last episode, just go watch it right now. It's in the description box. But if you wanna, hear the spoilers, then I guess you can just watch this episode and watch. Like, there is no particular method, or should I say, step to watching the two videos. But if you want to watch the first one, you can always do that so that you have an idea of where we're coming from. So, people that have watched the first episode, thank you. So the second episode is going to be talking about the remaining three steps, or the remaining three should I say, problems or conditions or issues that I saw with our electoral system. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so if you remember the first episode, we talked about emotional attachment to parties, voting for parties over people, and we also talked about systemic violence and poverty. And I'm sure, especially like towards that second part, some people have been like, this girl, she's just behaving as if everything that is wrong with this election is our fault. Like, is our fault. And remember, I also said in the last video that I would be approaching this from the view of the electorate, so from the voters' perspective, what we can do on our part. So that is mainly why some, or should I say, most of the points that I'm bringing up are pertaining to electorates. But I will, if you guys want, put it in the comment section below. Even though I'm already thinking about it, I'm also thinking of doing something looking at the elections from the government's perspective. But for now, I'm going to be concentrating on the electorates. So let us continue from where we stopped last time. So last time we stopped at at how the electoral process and voting process in Nigeria usually brings about systemic violence and poverty, and how that keeps people in this cycle. So next point that I wanted to talk about was voters education. So if when people hear about voters education, they're like, voters education, it's not like civic education, like we did that one in secondary school. Now that is actually not voters education. Civic education is actually a very good way to learn about your country's government and everything. But if, for example, you did not do civic education in your school, or you have forgotten, or maybe you were not paying attention in class, for example, I didn't have civic education textbook, but like I still passed. So like all of us, like most of us ish, were kind of unserious. And also, voters education is actually, should I say, voters education in real life is actually more in depth. I'm going to be touching this computer again, yeah. So because our computer is here, so voters education in real life is actually more in depth than what you talk about in the average class in in secondary school, or maybe if you do it in primary school. It's more in depth. What you do in real life, they will not tell you everything in class, because you guys are just learning for the sake of knowing the basic concepts. So when it comes to voters education, how I feel, or should I say how I think voters education, or should I say the lack of voters education affects Nigeria's electoral system. I would say, for example, let us think about the election, the 2019 presidential election now. So that during that election, about 39 or 35 million plus people voted, and out of that, 1.2 million votes were invalid. Just think about that. That's about 4.5% of the total votes casted. So it's just like saying that one, should I say, five in every 100 people, about five in every 100 people, or about four in every, yeah, about five in every 100 people, or about one in every 20 people that voted might as well not have voted. So now, if you think about that, why are we having too many invalid votes? People, especially Nigerians, our election, sometimes if they don't organize it well, it can be held to go and vote. And so we already understand the stress. Pardon me, computer, laptop, alarm. I have so many alarms, you guys. But like, I think this is the first time you guys are meeting one of my alarms. So, what was I saying? Yes. So electoral process and voting. So if you think about Nigeria, like, it's so hard to vote, and when you now eventually vote, then somebody will now be like, oh, sorry, because of so and so, your vote was not counted. Kill, I mean, explain yourself. So voters education is something that I think is very important so that people know how to vote. And it's not just only how to vote. I think voters people forget or people don't know that voters education is not just about what you do on that day, but actually the entire process of voting. Whether it is voting or election season, or whether it isn't in the season, when, especially because I know some of you are like, why is she talking about election and voting? And like, election is not for like the next 3 or 2.5 years. That is part of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, should I say, raise awareness or do some voter education, something, because voters education should actually be happening all year round, every time, not only when there is election. People need to know, okay, is it that is this when can I particularly get my voters card? Is this are there like age limits? Some people just think that okay, 18 is like the age when you are officially a person in Nigeria, because like before 18 you are just non-existent. You're just non-existent. But like 18 for example is the minimum age that you have to be to vote. But you need to understand, okay, when it is 18, what do I do? Now, is it that I've just walked to any INEC office? Do you even know the INEC offices around your area? Many things like that, and they are all on the INEC website. I wanted to talk more about it, but I couldn't, say like go dive. I said go dive, deep dive into it because it will just be like the entire video, because there are actually so many good resources. One thing I wanted to point out is that some resources that you actually need to know, or should I say some things you need to know, or some resources that you need during election are actually explained or are on the INEC website. It's just that in some sectors, or should I say in some ministries, their website is like the only thing that they use in campaigning. But the thing is that Nigerians, we don't check website because we believe that most of our websites, which is actually true in some cases, that most of the websites are not good, or they are not working, or they are not even up to date. Like they're just like everything is everywhere. But I went to the INEC website and I actually saw some good things, and I was like, okay, this thing actually makes sense. But it will take a while for you to understand what you are doing there, and you need to navigate and everything. Which is why I always say, and which is why I'm saying again, that voters education does not start 2 months before the election. You have to be familiar with the process so that you have an idea of what to do. And sometimes if there are deadlines, for example, maybe they told you that okay, everybody you have to register, you know everybody has to register at least 24 hours before election. You cannot come election money and say, oh, I'm 18, I want to register because I want to vote. They'll just be like, what? So you need to know the processes, you need to know what you need to do. And apart from just knowing how to register and how accreditation works and how to vote, the people also need to know the power that their vote holds. Some people think that voting is just something that people are doing because they don't have anything to do, or because it's just like, oh, who has time to be voting? Please, Jerry, I'm not voting. But people need to know the power of their vote. People need to be educated on on should I say how voting is actually very important to say. It's also a right, or should I say no, sorry, it's also an obligation. We have the right to vote because we're in a democracy, but because we are also in that same democracy, it is now our obligation to vote. So when you don't vote, it is like not using your right, but it is also not doing your obligation as a citizen of the country. So when you think about that, some people don't know that, and some people are just like, oh, I don't have time to vote. Is it that important? Like some people just don't really. They just know that, okay, when it is time to vote, people go outside, go and press handles all over the place, and then that's the end. But like people need to understand that, okay, this voting thing, like it's actually hope. It's good to do. It's not that hard, and then even through voter education, then you notice that, okay, when people are educated about voting, and people are educated about the process, then you have more people that can contribute, that can give feedback. Imagine if Nigeria's I don't know if they do it, but imagine if during after every election, the INEC officials or the INEC office or the INEC website sent out surveys to all the people that voted and say, okay, oh, how was your voting experience? Tell us what you liked, tell us what you didn't like. You understand? That way they will be able to get good feedback. So if the line was too long, people were saying, your line was too long. I was there for like 2 hours. I even bought puff puff on the line. I even bought puff puff on the line. As some people were saying, it was raining. There was no shelter cooking. We had to be carrying an umbrella. And I'm not even voting for PDP. Now, people, they'll take note of that. But if people don't come out to even vote in the first place because they don't even know about the voting process, or they are not interested because they are not educated, then they won't be able to give feedback so that they can improve the system. So those are just one of the ways that I think lack of voters education affects the system, and these are some of the solutions that I think can help. So people go to the INEC website, and it will be in the link in the description. Just, you don't have to do it now, but like you can do it later. Just go there. You don't have to go and like write an essay about it. Just even see how it looks like. Know that INEC has a website. You understand? And all these people, when it is time for like election, try and follow them. For example, right now we're in the middle of the pandemic. It's good to follow NCDC. I mean, like they give, at least you don't have to be waiting for channels at 10 or whenever they share the numbers, and you also get news on your Instagram. And I know that they're not the ones that they're always putting like all these ones that they be breaking on, but like it's just news, or should I say info, to keep you updated. So when it is, even if you don't follow them every time, you don't have to follow them permanently, but whenever it is close to times that you need those services, so you are going to do something related to those ministries, it's good to always follow them on social media. That's another way that you can probably be educated. I'll see if INEC, I've not checked if INEC has Instagram, but they probably do. And if they do, the description will be in the link below so that you all can follow them, or you can just go there and see what they're talking about. And then when it's time for election, you can follow them and see if there will be any updates. You understand? So that's what I'm talking about. And one thing I wanted to mention about voters education and how it works is about the invalid votes I was talking about. So I know some people that are like invalid votes. Like, why would we have so many invalid votes? 1.2 million. That's like half of the people that voted in Lagos State, in the last election. There are actually many ways that a vote can be invalid. If you put your hand in between two parties, so you're like, is this APC or PDP? If you put your hand in multiple parties, like, okay, thumbprint in multiple parties, like how many parties is this person voting for? The count it as invalid. If it is completely blank, it's also invalid because you can't put that one, you can't allocate that vote to any party. And so many other things that can happen to, should I say, a ballot paper that makes that vote invalid. So all this information, you can find them online or on the INEC website. So when you have time, go there, check. I know all of us were kind of bored, and we're like, what it is that I can do INEC, but like, I mean, what are you doing at home? Just say.